with Reporter's Take. I'm Sakshi Batra and I have with me my colleague Priyanka Sahay, and we are here to talk about the latest changes that the government has done with respect to angel tax. Thanks very much, Priyanka, for joining in. Now, let's understand first that this has been a big bone of contention with the industry players, and now finally the government, as a breather to the industry, has relaxed these norms. What are the changes really that have been made by the government?
So, well, Sakshi, it will be fair to say that to a large extent, the government has gone ahead and ensured that the startups who were actually impacted by this clause called angel tax have now actually been addressed and taken care of. Just to give you some perspective, this whole issue actually came into the picture in 2012 when this clause was introduced by the then Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee in the budget session, and ever since then there have been a lot of protests and demands that have been arising from the industry. However, it's only been now that the government actually took time out and went ahead making amendments. So for now what we see is that there have been a clear-cut definition of startups that have been revised, has been revised. So earlier, a company which used to be, which was incorporated since in the last 7 years was considered startup. This has now been widened to 10 years, even on the turnover front. Earlier, a startup was defined as a company that would earn a turnover of rupees 25 crore in an assessment year. That has now been revised to rupees 100 crore, which is like a huge revision, I would say. So, a lot of these revisions have happened, and this in principle increases the ambit of the number of startups that can now fall under this category and widens the opportunity for the investors who can now come and invest in this segment.
Absolutely. So definitely these changes are quite huge in terms of the widening of the definition, as well as including more and more startups in the ambit as well. However, you did point out that the government has taken out time now to correct all these things, and this has been a long-standing demand of the industry as well. So what has been the trigger point for the government to make these changes right now?
So there's no money for guessing this, that Sakshi, this is an election year.
Absolutely.
So and you know, the government eventually earns a brownie point by going ahead and making such a huge amount of change in a clause that have been bothering such a big industry.
Absolutely.
So I would say that all of this started in December last year when some of the startups in the industry started receiving notices from the income tax department, and this mostly happened under section 68, and all of these startups started reaching out of the Ministry of Commerce, and given the fact that this was an election year, the minister obviously went ahead and stated that they would come up with a corrective measure. And they did that in January, in the month of January. That was on January 16th. The government came up with the first leg of notification, giving a lot of clarity on what angel tax is and how it will help the entire ecosystem. However, still not many were convinced, and they demanded further clarifications and further revisions. So now what we see, the notification that has come yesterday, it goes ahead and almost tries to cover up all the concerns that the industry raised earlier, and has tried to ensure that, you know, before the election, no further protests happen, at least on this front.
Absolutely. So the government has done its bit to appease these at least a voter count as well, as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. But what are the initial reactions that we are getting from the industry? Are they really happy about these new notifications?
Of course. I mean, the industry has been applauding this move, and a lot of angel investors who also happen to be top entrepreneurs of the country. For instance, Vijay Shekhar Sharma has tweeted and called it a corrective measure that has been done by the government. So overall, the sentiment is very positive, and the industry is welcoming this move.
Absolutely. So the industry is definitely happy about these changes. And lastly, I'd like to understand from you, are all the issues that this industry was worried about, have they now been clarified, or are there still some missing points that are left out and the government should have addressed?
So, well, actually, not everything can be covered overnight. So, there are certain issues that still remain unaddressed. For instance, there's a section 68 that we're just discussing about. So, turns out that under section 68, any startup, if it receives unaccounted cash money, so then there are some answers that needs to be given. All the startups that actually were receiving notices fall under the same clause ambit. So what happens to those startups that have actually received the notices? So we are not yet clear on that front. So we'll have to wait and watch as to what can be done on this front. what we hear as of now is that all these startups community, a lot of them will now be reaching out to the government requesting for some further revision or clarification that they can come up with on this section as well. So that's what we are hearing as of now.
Sure. Thanks a lot then, Priyanka, for sharing all those details. Well, for now, startup industry is definitely happy with the latest notification that the government has come out with respect to the angel tax. It has abolished this tax, widened the definition. More and more startups can come under the ambit. Definitely a happy news for the startup industry. Thanks very much for joining us in this edition of Reporters Take, and do stay logged on to moneycontrol.com for more news and updates. Thanks for watching.